10 years of Phylomania. Wowee. Mike Charleston has kindly asked me to make some remarks about where it all came from and where it's all going. No small ask, Mike. Well, as the regulars know, the answer to the second question is quite simple. Where it's all going, it's that cry from the organisers that we all anxiously await. It's beer o'clock. That's where we're going. Where did it all come from? Well, for me, the interest in things biological started not 10 but 25 years ago, when some physicists proposed looking at the systematics of the genetic code from the perspective of spectroscopy or symmetry breaking in spectroscopy, using things like Grantham polarity as a proxy to energy differences, and coming up with various frozen accident scenarios for the origin of the genetic code. A postdoc in our group at the time, Yanis Tsouchantzis, was a machine for turning tobacco and coffee into theoretical physics, and we, with a keen honours student, Jim Bashford, we worked on developing some original models in this vein. Jim also worked on modelling of the viral gene promoter sites as phylogenetic traits, promoter recognition requiring a binding complex moving along the strands, and so involves the physical flexing and bending of the strand. It's context dependent rather than actual sequence content dependent. Jim was unable to continue this work under ARC support, but he went on to work with Menna Jones and others on the Devil Research Group and disease modelling studies. At some stage while in New Zealand on a PhD thesis examination, someone else's, not mine, I had the chance to give a talk at Palmerston North, and David Penny and Mike Hendy patiently explained their program in actual real molecular phylogenetics modelling. And when another keen postgrad back in Hobart, Jeremy Sumner, decided to tick the strategic direction box of mathematical biology for his APA scholarship application, we started to look at these models in detail. And we found nice ways of using physics tensor techniques to handle symmetries and group transformations to handle things like Hadamard coordinates. And a key moment for us came on another trip to Christchurch, when we were able to work with Mike Steele and wrote a joint paper with Mike on our methods for the Kimura model. For his thesis, Jeremy went off in the direction of Markov invariants in phylogenetic modelling, and of course we've since intensively worked on the model classes themselves, and with Michael Woodhams have come up with actually 36 models of this type, times 3 if you include 3 different pairing classes, Watson-Crick, purine pyrimidine and chemical type class. During this early time, a young or even younger Barbara Holland came to visit for a few weeks, although for some unaccountable reason she was mostly to be found in the geography department, not physics, only for her to turn up a couple of years later on a fully fledged lecturing appointment. And so, with Jeremy returning after a postdoc and some fantastic experience in Sydney with Mike Charleston and Lars Jamin, our evolution into a mathematical phylogenetics group proper began in earnest. Barbara, with her tremendous enthusiasm and drive for getting hands dirty with data and engaging with biologists, and also helping to push Jeremy and me into implementing our Markov invariants in a sensible way for experimental purposes. And of course the icing on the cake was the final event, the headhunting and arrival of the not inconsiderable head of Michael the Charleston himself. So these days we call the group mathematical biology rather than mathematical phylogenetics, and new influences have come in the person of Malgorzata O'Reilly and colleagues, and stochastic modelling more generally. So when attending our group lunchtime meetings these days, I sometimes luxuriate in the feeling of not actually understanding anything of what's going on with the topic of the day. So much is the varied nature of the subjects being covered. Some famous person once said that in order to progress and deepen in research and originality, you have to collect and gather ignorance. So that may be some cold comfort. Well, we've had so many contacts and help from colleagues and collaborators, too many to mention, not least the faithful attendees of Phylomania. But I should point out the presence of another rising star in our group in the form of Postdoc Venter Torodes is in no small measure due to the indirect and direct influence and support of Michael Barker in Bielefeld and also Ellen Barker. Another acknowledgement to my colleague from Greece, Demosthenis Elinas from the Technical University of Crete, also a colleague of Yannis with whom we started it all. By the way, I still regularly meet Yannis when I'm on stopovers at Athens airport, and we sit on the pavement outside near the taxi rank where he has his cigarettes and coffee. That's as far as he can get inside the airport, and we discuss latest ideas and developments. So the future. Demosthenis has convinced me that our future directions in phylogenetics lie in quantum simulation. This sounds like a turn backwards to the beginning, but it's not actually using quantum mechanics in this fundamental sense, although that's an open question, but more it's exploiting the really natural compatibility of a lot of quantum circuit operations with the discrete nature of the mathematics and processing that goes on in phylogenetics and I guess in mathematical biology generally. So I guess a lot of people may be thinking skeptically that the hype about quantum computers is just so much propaganda and advertising, which much of it is, but we should note that what we're not hearing about is progress being made by the really big players, whether sinister or militaristic or commercial or otherwise. So who knows what the future will bring in that regard. And Demos and I have recently been trying to publish in this direction to really open up the field of quantum simulation in the area of phylogenetics as far as we can see it. So what's this space? Well, that's all, folks. Once again, welcome. Thanks for coming, making the trip, old-timers and newbies alike. Have a great time, dinner, beer o'clock, Phylomania walk. Don't branch off too far in the wrong direction. Travel safe and come back again next year. There's one thing though, very important. When we have the Phylomania conference photo, we don't say cheese. Instead, we say Andreas Dress. Okay, so let's just try that one more time. All together now. 1, 2, 3. Andreas Dress. Okay, thanks and all the best.